What's going on, everyone? Austin John Plays here, and today we're going to be talking about all of the various hardware that you have for the Nintendo Switch 1 if it works with the Switch 2. Could you put in like a better clap sound? Because that was just sad plastic on plastic.
No, I was up till 3 in the morning and I'm running on 3 hours of sleep. Merry Switchmas.
Like many of you, I've owned the Nintendo Switch 1 for quite a while, and I have a lot of accessories, first party and third party. I'm curious on what works. The very first thing I want to see is the Nintendo Switch 1 dock. This is a custom red and white one from the limited edition Colorware Austin Nintendo Switch. It physically does not fit. The actual cutout at the bottom is different than it is on the Nintendo Switch 1, much in the same way that the Nintendo Switch 2 cartridges can't go into a Nintendo Switch 1. But what if you don't have that actual little nub there? You could go ahead and sand that down, or we could test this. I took a Nintendo Switch dock, I broke it down, I then got this 3D printed little box and I put the motherboard of a Nintendo Switch dock into here. Oh, not only is the nub in the way, but the height of where the USB-C is and where the USB-C was is actually different. It kind of fits backwards. Okay, there's a solution for that. I was gonna be overly dramatic and use a saw to just cut off the plastic, and then I remembered I put this together, I could take it apart. I brought you into this world, I could take you out of it. Right here is the board from the Nintendo Switch 1 dock, and this is the actual USB-C little nub and ribbon cable that then goes to the motherboard. Here you can see that I plugged in the HDMI and the actual power adapter for the Switch 2. Let's go ahead and plug in a Switch 1. This should work, no problem, no issues. And look at that, it immediately docked. Great. Does the Switch 1 dock actually work with the Switch 2? Bypassing any hardware restrictions? No. Wow. I really thought this would just be seen as a like a USB-C to HDMI adapter, but no. This dock 100% does not work with the Nintendo Switch 2. I was actually expecting that to work. Not gonna lie. I'm curious to see if it works the other way around, if I can use the Nintendo Switch 2 dock for a Nintendo Switch 1. Now, the physical limitation basically says that I can't do it, but I do have this USB-C extension cord. Plug in a Switch 2 just to confirm that it does work. USB-C extension into a Nintendo Switch 2 dock works just fine. Now let's test a Switch 1. I think this is gonna work. No. Wow, I was not expecting this at all. Neither dock, neither way is compatible. I wasn't expecting these results. This is interesting. Here I have a what I like to call hot garbage dock. These are just like the little BS dongles that you get for your laptop or whatever. Works with the Switch 1, does not work with the Switch 2, which I have a feeling the Switch 2 requires a very specific thing for it to actually output because of the upscaling that's being done for the output. This is just really interesting here. It's not nearly as plug and play as the Switch 1 was. So interestingly, the Switch and Switch 2 really do have unique, different outputs. Controllers! Okay, so right here I have my Switch 2 dock. It's into a USB-C extension cord for visibility. So people have asked about Switch 1 controllers, the Joy-Con 1s working on the Switch 2. You actually have these little tiny sync buttons. Oh yeah, that immediately paired. You'll see that if you hook up a single Joy-Con, it does respond as a single Joy-Con, and let's go ahead and synchronize this one. And yes, this is being seen as Joy-Con 2. So now both of these are paired as separate controllers. There we go. You can use a pair of Joy-Cons as a pair of Joy-Con 2s on the Switch 2. Can we very easily go back and forth between single and double Joy-Con? Oh, yep, we can. Great. There we go. They're seen as two independent ones. Yep, immediately found as a pair of Joy-Cons. That's great. First time I did it, it was a little rough, but then I resynced again and I didn't have any issues. These are also very old Joy-Cons. Can I use the Joy-Con 2s on the Switch 1? Synchronizing. I doubt this is gonna work. No. Not seen. Let's try searching for both. Nope, the Switch 1, despite being on the newest software and everything else, does not see the Joy-Con 2s. Now, since the Joy-Con 1s were very easily seen by the Switch 2, I think it's pretty healthy to assume that you're going to be able to use all of the NSO controllers, like here's the Super NES one. If I go ahead and I plug that in for power, and then I hit the synchronize button at the bottom, yeah, immediately seen, even has its own special icon and everything else. The N64 controller, I have no reason to believe these would not work. Yeah, immediately paired, no problem. The NES Joy-Con though, you are still going to need like a third-party thing to charge these. I mean, I'm just gonna assume they work because they're literally a Joy-Con. Mice! What about a mouse? I already tried a wireless mouse, the 8-bit Do Retro R8 mouse, A8 mouse, whatever it's called. What about a cheap, crappy inland USB mouse? Now we know that the Joy-Con 2s work as mice on the home screen and everything else like that. I don't yet own a game that supports USB mouse support. In fact, I don't know a long list that does. Maybe Civ mouse? No, USB mouse, not doing nothing. Meanwhile, if I go ahead and I plug these in, yeah, immediately works as a mouse, you'll see that. USB mouse, not functional. So it does seem like USB mice is going to be game by game. This is probably done so that first-party games like Splatoon aren't going to work with third-party mice right out of the box. There might be a dongle or an adapter that can make the Switch 2 think that this is a Joy-Con 2, but that it does not exist yet. I can use a USB keyboard, right? Go ahead and plug in a USB keyboard, that's gonna work no problem. No, I have power, but scroll lock isn't showing up. And whenever I go to type something in, I mean, unless this field that very clearly has this system keyboard here, nope, not being seen. That's an interesting one. And it definitely was getting power. This keyboard has a little power light and the power light was on, so. Third-party wired controllers. This controller is so adorable. Oh my god, this is one of the nano controllers, so it's like a real tiny controller. I think you get these at clearance for like $5. If you do come across these on clearance at Target or something, definitely 100% pick them up for a younger audience. These are Power A. Yeah, Power A. Cheap wired third-party controller for the Switch 1 does work on the Switch 2. I should probably go ahead and make sure that the Switch 1 Pro controller works on the Switch 2. I know 100% for a fact that it does. I had a friend who was worried about getting a Pro controller, and I'm like, dude, you have a Pro controller for the Switch 1. It's gonna work on the Switch 2. He's like, oh, I did not even think about that. Switch 1 Pro controller works just fine on a Switch 2, as we would expect it to. Let's go ahead and test the Wii U Nintendo Gamecube adapter. Yep, works out the box, no issues. Gamecube adapter, it's crazy that the Gamecube controller going to a Wii U adapter designed for the Wii U works on the Switch 2. That's like 5 generations gapping there. If you prefer hardwired controllers or Wavebirds for Smash, you could just plug this bad boy in and still have 4 GameCube controllers. That's nice to know. Wonder how Smash runs. I assume it's gonna work exactly the same, maybe a little bit more stable. That's it. Shout out to Nintendo for going ahead and shipping out the Switch 2 GameCube controller so early. It's 9:30 in the morning. UPS already came and dropped it off. Perfect time, considering the video I'm recording right now, right? So let's go ahead and sync this bad boy up. Oh, immediately seen. Has its own custom icon and everything. Can this work on the Switch 1? No? No. Just further cementing the idea that any controller that's designed for the Switch 2 does not work on the Switch 1. While many things are backwards compatible, nothing is forwards compatible. Okay, all right. What else? What else of my many accessories are we testing? Nintendo Switch projector is not going to work because it doesn't work with the dock. The USB right angle adapter, I don't really know how I would test this. I mean, I guess it would work for charging. No, because it has that little nub there, so that's kind of pointless. Okay. I just checked all of my storage containers, and honestly, without the Joy-Con rails and without the dockability of the Switch 2 to Switch 1 accessories, it severely limits the amount of things that even could possibly work. So yeah, it seems like the general takeaway is peripherals made by Nintendo or made for the Switch 1 work on the Switch 2 no problem, including all of the NSO specialty controllers for the previous Nintendo consoles, Joy-Cons, Pro controllers, all those things work no issue. What used to be game specific on the Switch 1, like USB mouse and keyboard support, remain to be exactly that, game specific. It does not function system-wide, unlike your ability to use a Joy-Con in mouse mode. Anything that required the Nintendo Switch 1 to dock into something does not function on the Switch 2. It does work for power delivery, but it does not work for HDMI output. And that actually works both ways, that anything that's designed for the Switch 2 video input does not work for a Switch 1 video input, which as of right now, it's just the dock. I know that GameStop makes like a $40 dock adapter thing. I wasn't able to order that from either of the GameStops that I went to, so I can't test that out, but I'm interested to see how that works, to see what tomfoolery is done under the hood that allows it to work with the Switch 2, and if it does work with the Switch 1. Third-party USB controllers worked no problem on the Switch 2. Well, there we go. That is pretty much every Nintendo Switch accessory I own to see if it works on the Nintendo Switch 2. If there's anything that I missed, leave it in the comment section down below. I'm interested about all that. Great. Guys, thank you so much for being here. If you found this information helpful, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. Until next time, Austin John out.
Man, they see me shining like I got the charm. Stay strapped, got that jet ball in my palm. Fell from the sky, guess I'm the chosen one. And if you need to know how, check out Austin John. Champion flow, yeah. I got that champion flow.